How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the second part of this video. If you've not seen the first part, I will link it in the description below. This is my first professional furniture build, and it is a console table for a client in Wales. It is a walnut base and a European oak top, so here you see me milling up the oak for the top. I ran into some real issues with this oak to begin with. When I received it, it was a little higher the moisture content that I wanted, even though it was kiln dried. So I actually left it in my flat for a week or so. And I don't know if it's extremely hot in my flat or something, but unfortunately some hairline cracks started opening up, so I had to go back to the sawmill and replace it. Here is just your daily reminder to keep your workshop tidy. I work out of a community space, so it is super important to ensure that all the mess that you make during these builds is properly disposed of.
Hey, right.
Your class works.
Oh yeah? Very well.
It's not quite full yet, but it actually sank in the snow instead of just staying on the top. I think it's mostly works. yeah, thank you.
Hey, and then when you do it again, it's not look anymore.
Yes. Thank you very much.
No problem, man.
That is the beauty of a community workshop. That was a guy in metalwork who just came in to thank me because I have some experience soldering, being a model maker, and he was having trouble soldering this bronze ring together that he was trying to get done, and so I just gave him a couple of tips. Really nice to meet people of all different levels, because I'm by no means in the top half of metal workers in this workshop, but it's just nice to be able to offer your experience and things that you perhaps didn't value yourself as too important, but you know, they mean a lot to other people. So that was me using the dowel jig that they have in this space, which is great for exactly this sort of thing, because even when you've got a surface that's wider than the dowel jig, you can then just locate it using one of the dowel pegs. And yeah, I'm just gluing up the tabletop here after some milling and grain matching to just make it as continuous as possible. And yeah, as I said before, I always feel like it requires a little extra persuasion to get boards to glue together when you put dowels in. This console table has an oak top and an oak shelf as well. The shelf is for things like books and stuff like that. Within the design, I created an apron for the bottom so it can withstand a lot of weight. I won't be using dowel pins for this one because the shelf is an inch thick and it's not as wide. This one's only 28 centimeters wide. I think I actually ended up preferring the grain pattern on the shelf in the end because it was really, really variegated, which was quite interesting compared to the top. But as you'll see, the top has its own interest. Here I'm just sharpening and honing my hand plane because after that glue up, the surface becomes too big for me to do anything with the tools I have available. So from then on, the flattening is all going to be done with hand tools. And then obviously the obligatory hair test to see if it strips hairs off your arms. I use a number 5 plane because I find that it's really versatile. You can use it as a jack plane like this, but then you can also use it for finer work, which is just really nice. And I just use this straight edge, which is essentially it's just a thick ruler, just to keep checking the worktop to make sure that it was flat enough. Also, with something this size, I wasn't super comfortable pushing it through the table saw, so I decided to use the track saw because I had quite a lot of luck with it in this project. I found it to be really quite accurate, and I've not used a lot of track saw work in the past. that's square enough for me. So here's a little tip for when you're cutting hardwoods. If you encounter any resistance, like you saw me there, just instantly turn off the table saw. Do not push it through. The best case scenario is you get a poor cut. The worst case scenario is you ram your hand through the blade. So just stick a wedge in there. I just use an offcut of what I was using. Any sort of wedge, just to pry the wood apart past the blade and then push it through safely. It's really not worth the extra, 20 seconds you might save. Here I'm marking up the joinery for the aprons, which is what these small pieces of timber are. I decided to do some hand-cut tenons because I just think hand-cut joinery is great. It really, if you're making an expensive piece, it really shows the customer why it's expensive, and I think it goes a way to help make it worth it. I was using the mitre gauge and a stop block here just to ensure that the cuts were made at the exact same place on each side. These cuts represent the distance between the two legs. And then I just hogged out the rest of the waist using the blade. I don't have a grooving blade or anything like that, so hogging out waist like this, it's going to be a pretty uneven surface, but it's a good reference surface to then just chisel away the excess that I'm doing here. I'm marking out the mortise locations here in the legs, which I made in the last video. So as I said before, if you've not seen it, pop over and see that. We'll just give you a bit of continuity for this make. Here I'm holding in the the aprons at some really funky clamping work, but it ended up working out great. I was able to use a marking knife to describe the exact locations, and then hog out all the waste with a drill press to get a gauge for the depth as well. And then the rest of it is just chisel work. I find that chiseling out mortises leaves a lot of waste, so I had a vacuum on hand. And then for the final, getting it right up to the line, I used a block just to ensure it was at 90 degrees. And these clips are a reminder that don't put your camera on the table when you're hammering. Listen to the satisfaction of the joint finally fitting here. Snug is snug enough for me. And so we're moving on to work on the tabletop here. Now, one of the pieces was full of knot holes, so I'm just taping up the backside and chiseling out any inclusions or anything that might come out at a later date, because I'm going to be filling all of these holes and pits and stuff with a black epoxy. I always find that if there is a void in wood, try not to hide it, try and play it. You know, with voids, natural voids in the wood, I think black epoxy does a great job because black is a void, isn't it? So that's how it works in my head. It's definitely an aesthetic choice. I'm just using a technique with the heat gun where I heat up the surface of the wooden top, and this allows the resin to flow much more easily into the voids, and then I'm just dripping in the resin with this small pipette that I found in the space. Working with epoxy is a bit of a balance because the heat will make it thinner and flow more easily, but heat will also speed up the curing process, so you need to get that balance right. Tune into the next video and I will be finishing it up, assembling, and you'll get to see the final build. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.